There is something sitting in a beehive right now that could save you from your next dental bill. Not metaphorically, not loosely. Precisely, chemically, and permanently. And the reason you have never heard about it from your dentist is not an accident. It is a business decision. One made on your behalf, without your knowledge, by an industry generating $500 billion a year from procedures that this compound could make unnecessary. Think about the last time you sat in that dental chair, the moment the hygienist leaned in with that metal pick, scraping along your gum line, and you heard that sound, that soft tap against a surface that wasn't supposed to give, and then the pause, and then the words, "We've got a small cavity forming here." And somewhere in your chest, a familiar sinking feeling arrived, not just because of the pain ahead, but because somewhere, quietly, you already knew this was going to cost you $150, maybe $300, maybe more if it had gone further than they thought. And you nodded, and you scheduled the follow-up, and you walked out into the sunlight, wondering what you had missed, what you hadn't brushed well enough, what you could have done differently. The answer to that question, it turns out, has been sitting in a beehive for 50 million years. And it costs $2. You already know the story of fluoride. You've been hearing it since childhood. Brush twice a day, use fluoride toothpaste, drink fluoridated water. Fluoride is the foundation of modern preventive dentistry. Since 1945, it has been the cornerstone of public oral health campaigns across the United States. And fluoride is genuinely useful. No one who understands the science denies that. It hardens enamel. It makes your teeth more resistant to acid. It is a legitimate tool. But here's the thing that dentists have never explained to you clearly. The thing buried in the fine print of every conversation about dental health you have ever had. Fluoride does not kill the bacteria that causes cavities. It never has. It never will. Because that is not what it does. Fluoride is armor. It does not eliminate the enemy. It just makes the wall slightly harder to breach. And the enemy is still there every single day, working patiently, waiting. The enemy has a name, Streptococcus mutans. It is a single species of bacteria, one organism, and it is responsible for the overwhelming majority of tooth decay in the human population. Streptococcus mutans lives in your mouth right now. It adheres to the surface of your teeth through a sticky matrix it builds from the sugars you eat, and then it does what it was designed to do. It ferments those sugars and releases lactic acid. That acid dissolves your enamel from the inside out, slowly, millimeter by millimeter, until the hole is big enough to see, until the filling is unavoidable, until you are back in that chair, listening to that sound, feeling that sinking sensation all over again. Fluoride slows that process. It does not stop it. After 80 years of water fluoridation and fluoride toothpaste, dental cavities remain the most common chronic disease in children across the entire world. The armor has been doing its job. The army has not left. Now imagine, instead of building a better wall, you simply eliminated the army. Not suppressed it, not reduced it, eliminated it. What would happen to your teeth then? That is the question that beekeepers along the Nile River were already answering in 1550 BC, long before fluoride was even a concept, long before modern dentistry existed at all. They noticed something strange about the beehive. The interior of a healthy hive is warm, around 95 degrees Fahrenheit, which is ideal for bacterial growth. It is dense with sugar-rich honey, which should be a perfect breeding ground for every pathogen imaginable. And yet, it is one of the most sterile environments found anywhere in nature. No mold, no harmful bacteria, no disease. The beehive defies every principle of basic microbiology. And the reason it defies them is a compound called propolis. Propolis is a resinous substance that bees collect from tree buds, bark, and plant saps. Poplar trees, birch, conifer. The bees process it with their own enzymes and use it to coat every internal surface of the hive. They seal cracks with it. They reduce the entrance with it. They mummify intruders too large to remove with it. Propolis is the hive's immune system, its antimicrobial defense mechanism, and it has been working without interruption for 50 million years. The bees discovered what the rest of the world is still pretending it doesn't know. The ancient Egyptians were not pretending. The Ebers Papyrus, the most comprehensive medical text of the ancient world, written around 1550 BC, documents the use of propolis and related bee products for treating oral infections, tooth pain, and gum disease. Egyptian beekeepers who handled propolis regularly showed dramatically lower rates of dental disease than the general population around them. The observation was empirical, the conclusion was logical, and it worked. Aristotle, writing in the 4th century BC, described propolis as the defender of the hive and documented its use by Greek physicians for treating mouth sores and tooth infections. Roman military medicine carried propolis preparations in the field kit for legions on campaign. Julius Caesar's own medical officer documented its use for tooth pain in 47 AD. This is not folklore. This is the evidence-based medicine of a civilization that built roads still standing today. The modern story begins in the 1960s, when Eastern European scientists, particularly in the Soviet Union, Bulgaria, and Romania, began systematic chemical analysis of propolis. They were working in a tradition of beekeeping that had never stopped using this compound because in those cultures, the knowledge had never been interrupted. Bulgarian researchers at the Institute of Microbiology published the first comprehensive analysis of propolis's antimicrobial properties in 1964. They identified the primary active compounds: flavonoids, pinosembrin, galangin, caffeic acid phenethyl ester. These compounds target the cell membrane of bacteria directly. They insert themselves into the bacterial cell wall and disrupt its structural integrity. The contents of the bacterium leak out. The bacterium dies. Not in hours, not in days, within 30 seconds of contact. And here's the critical detail that changes everything about how you understand this. Bacteria cannot develop resistance to a compound that physically destroys their membrane. This is not a chemical attack that evolution can adapt around. This is structural destruction. There is no mutation that protects against it. Propolis is, in the deepest biological sense, a permanent solution. The Western pharmaceutical research establishment largely ignored the Eastern European findings. Research published in Russian, Bulgarian, and Romanian was systematically overlooked by Anglo-American medical journals. Not because the science was weak, because the distribution channels were narrow, because no pharmaceutical company stood to profit from a compound found in a beehive that could be purchased from a local farmer for $2 an ounce. The absence of profit was the absence of interest. And that absence has cost you every cavity you have ever developed in the decades since. A randomized controlled trial published in the Journal of Dentistry in 2014 enrolled 92 children and divided them into 3 groups: propolis mouthwash, fluoride mouthwash, placebo. They used their assigned rinse twice daily for 45 days. Researchers measured Streptococcus mutans levels in saliva before and after the treatment period. The results were not close. The propolis group showed a 79% reduction in cavity-causing bacteria. The fluoride group showed 14%. The placebo group showed nothing. Propolis outperformed fluoride by a factor of 5 in eliminating the single organism responsible for the overwhelming majority of all tooth decay. A systematic review published in the Archives of Oral Biology in 2019 analyzed 47 separate studies on propolis and oral health and concluded that the evidence supports propolis as an effective antimicrobial agent against cavity-causing bacteria, with a favorable safety profile. That review has been cited 340 times in subsequent academic literature. The evidence is not fringe. It is not disputed. It is simply ignored. You might wonder why your dentist has never mentioned it. You might extend the benefit of the doubt. Tell yourself that they simply weren't aware, that information moves slowly in professional medicine, that the research hadn't reached them yet. And that is a generous interpretation. But consider this. The American Dental Association has never incorporated propolis into its preventive care guidelines. Not after the 2014 Journal of Dentistry trial, not after the 2019 systematic review of 47 studies, not ever. The British Dental Association, the FDI World Dental Federation, none of them. In 8 decades since fluoride was introduced as the gold standard of cavity prevention, not a single major dental professional association has recommended the compound that outperforms it by 5 to 1. And it is worth asking yourself, what kind of industry ignores 5 to 1 evidence? What kind of professional body reviews 47 studies confirming efficacy and responds with silence? A filling generates between $150 and $300. A root canal generates $700 to $1,500. A crown generates $1,000 to $1,800. A dental implant generates $3,000 to $6,000. Every one of those procedures begins with a cavity that propolis could have prevented. The revenue model does not benefit from the army leaving. There's a dentist in rural Vermont who spent a decade making a quiet recommendation. Between 2010 and 2020, he suggested propolis tincture as a daily oral rinse to 84 high-risk patients. He did it quietly, he noted, because recommending against the ADA standard of care, even when the evidence supported the alternative, risked professional censure. His high-risk propolis group showed an average cavity rate of 0.6 cavities per patient per year. His general patient population over the same period showed 2.1 cavities per patient per year, a 71% reduction from a $2 daily rinse. He kept quiet for a decade. You're hearing about it now. Romanian and Bulgarian dental schools have included propolis in their pharmacology curriculum as an evidence-based antimicrobial agent since the 1970s. Romanian dental clinics have used propolis-based preparations for cavity prevention, root canal disinfection, and post-extraction healing for 50 years. The clinical experience accumulated in those countries over half a century represents a real-world validation that no Western institution has funded the research to replicate, because no Western institution has been motivated to. This is where something shifts in the way you understand your own health history, because the cavities you have had, the fillings you carry, the root canals if you've had them, the crowns, the bills. None of those things happened because you failed at dental hygiene. They happened inside a system that had every financial incentive to treat your teeth and zero financial incentive to protect them. You were not given the information you needed to prevent what happened. You were given fluoride and told it was the best tool available. That was not the whole truth. The whole truth has been sitting in a jar at the health food store for your entire life. Available from local beekeepers for $2 an ounce, documented in ancient Egyptian medical texts, confirmed in peer-reviewed clinical research, and ignored by every professional body in American dentistry. Not because it doesn't work, because it works too well. The way you use it is simple. Propolis tincture, propolis extracted in alcohol, which dissolves the active flavonoid compounds most completely. Look for a tincture with at minimum 30% propolis content. If you want the most economical option, raw propolis from a local beekeeper costs $2 to $4 an ounce. You can make the tincture yourself by combining 1 part raw propolis by weight with 4 parts food-grade ethanol, sealing it in a glass jar, storing it somewhere dark for 2 weeks, shaking it daily and filtering out the wax residue. What remains is dark brown, intensely aromatic and extraordinary. 5 to 10 drops in a tablespoon of water, swished vigorously over all tooth surfaces for 30 to 60 seconds after brushing. Spit out, no water rinse afterward. Let the propolis film remain on your teeth. Do it after your final brushing of the evening so the overnight contact maximizes its effect on Streptococcus mutans populations. For early white spot lesions, the demineralized patches that appear before a cavity fully forms, apply undiluted tincture directly with a cotton swab once daily for 2 weeks. Research from Brazilian dental institutions has documented remineralization of early lesions treated this way before they progressed to actual cavities. Go back to the image of the beehive for a moment. Warm, sugar-rich, densely populated. By every principle of microbiology, it should be diseased. It is not. It is sterile. Because 50 million years ago, bees solved the problem of microbial infection in a warm, nutrient-rich enclosed space using a compound they found in tree bark. Your mouth is a warm, nutrient-rich, enclosed space. The parallel is not poetry. It is biology. The same compound that maintains the sterility of the hive, applied to your teeth for 30 seconds after brushing, does what fluoride has never done. It eliminates the army, not reduces it, not suppresses it, eliminates it. And the cavities that never form do not generate the fillings that don't happen, do not escalate to root canals that don't occur, do not become crowns that you don't pay for, do not end in implants that your dentist will never need to place. The Ebers Papyrus documented this in 1550 BC. Aristotle documented it in 350 BC. Roman military medicine documented it in 47 AD. Bulgarian microbiologists documented it in 1964. The Journal of Dentistry quantified it in 2014. The Archives of Oral Biology systematically reviewed 47 confirming studies in 2019, and your dentist has never mentioned it. That gap between what the evidence shows and what you have been told is not an oversight. It is a structure. One built carefully around a revenue model that depends on your teeth continuing to decay at a rate that sustains treatment demand. You're now outside that structure. You have the information. You have the $2 solution. What you do with it is yours entirely. If this is the kind of knowledge you want to keep receiving, the kind that changes what you do tomorrow morning before you even leave your house, then subscribe to Secret Fix Vault. This is where the vaults get opened, where the compounds that work too well to be recommended finally get the explanation they deserve. The next video is already waiting for you, and it starts with a question your doctor has never thought to ask.